First, we will start by learning how to shape curved pattern pieces. Select the Rectangle tool and make a rectangle that has a width of 9.5 inches and a height of 9 inches. Then select the Edit Pattern tool and click on the top line of the rectangle near the rightmost point and select Split. Under line 1, enter 3.25 inches and hit OK. Then, do the same for the left side of the line so that the outermost segments of that line are both 3.25 inches. Right-click on the bottom line of the rectangle and select Split. This time we will split the line so that the outermost segments equal 1 inch. Select the middle segment of the top line and drag to your desired amount. I chose to get as close to 2 inches as possible. Next, click on the bottom right point and while holding down Shift, click the bottom left point. With those selected, right-click on either point and select Convert to Curve Point. Long-click on the Edit Pattern tool so that the menu appears and select the Edit Curvature tool. Click on the curve you had just created and drag it to your desired shape like I'm doing right now. With the Edit Curvature tool still selected, adjust the top corners of the bag until they have your desired shape. You can also use the Edit Curve Point tool to add a point to the curve to make it easier to manipulate. Next, select the Edit Pattern tool and right-click somewhere on the curved area of the side of the bag and select Split. Hit OK. This will create a point to anchor the curve so when we cut the pattern piece in half, it doesn't disappear. Sometimes creating this anchor point will make that curve disappear, so use the Edit Curvature tool to add it back in. Next, we will create an internal line and create a line segment that goes to the middle of the pattern piece. Then, using the Edit Pattern tool, right-click on that line segment and select Cut. Delete the undesired piece and then right-click on the segment that was just used to cut the pattern down the middle and select Unfold. Now you have your completed pattern piece. I use this piece as the main body of my bag. Next, we will create another rectangle with a width of 7.5 inches and a height of 4.5 inches. Using the Edit Pattern tool, right-click on the bottom line and select Split. This time, we will select Uniform Split and 2 as the number of segments. Do the same to the top line. Next, select the bottom rightmost segment and split it so the right segment is 1/2 inch. Do the same to the right side of the rectangle so the bottom part of the segment is 1/2 inch. Then select the corner point and drag it evenly between the 2 points you just created until the diagonal dotted line reads approximately 1 inch. Select the top right corner and using your keyboard, hit the left arrow key once. Using the Edit Curvature tool, click and drag on the right side of the shape until you reach your desired shape and do the same with the bottom of the shape. The idea is to keep the line segment more curved closer to the notch shape we created, since this notch will become our dart. Using the Internal Line tool, create a line connecting the midpoints previously created. Using the Edit Pattern tool, right-click on this line and select Cut. Delete the unwanted side and right-click on the line you had just created and select Unfold. The pocket would eventually be sewn so that either side of the notch are sewn together, and then the pocket as a whole would be sewn to an internal line created on the body of the bag, as I'm showing here. Next, we will be discussing how to add and manipulate print. First, select all the pieces you wish to add print to. Click on the fabric you plan on using in the object browser, and in the property editor, scroll until you see the texture subheading and click on the button next to it that has 4 squares on it. Navigate to the file you wish to use as your print, select it, and hit open. Please note that whatever print you decide to do should be a repeatable tile. On the bottom of the window, navigate to the 3D window. On the left-hand side, select the Edit Texture 3D tool. You can now click and drag to move around the print on each individual piece. This makes it so that the bag looks more realistic and organic. You can also rotate the print by grabbing the anchor points on the handle. In part 3, we will explore how to add snaps to our handbag. Initially, I added the snaps the same way one would add buttons to a garment. However, because of the significant overlap I have between the flap and pocket bag, this did not work for me. Here I show the initial method I used. I created a midpoint on the segment by splitting the line into 2 uniform segments. Then I right-clicked on this point and selected Add Perpendicular Line, and then X-axis. I made this line equal 1/2 inch. I then replicated the same thing to the pocket bag. Then at the top menu bar, I selected Materials, Button, and then Button again. Click once to apply the button. Then in the same menu as before, I selected Buttonhole and clicked once to place it. Here we can see what the button placement looks like. Here I decided to temporarily hide the pattern for the strap so I can better see the button and the buttonhole. I go back to the 2D window and then I selected Materials, Button, and Fasten Button. Click on the button once and you will see a gray arrow appear. Then click on the buttonhole you wish to fasten the button to. In order to change the appearance of the button to make it look like a snap, you can go to the library, select Hardware and Trims, then Buttons and Buttonholes, select Button, and then double-click on your desired button. I chose the one named Snap Rivet. Select the button on your bag and go to the Object Browser window. Click on the down arrow next to your desired button and you should see the button change. I then went to the Property Editor on the right-hand side of the window and changed the size of the button. Unfortunately, as you can see, once I simulated the bag, the pieces shifted upward, and from a side view, you can really see how the snaps are sitting incorrectly. Next, I will show you the correct way to add snaps in this scenario. I selected the 3D garment pen on the left-hand side of the 3D window, and then marked on the flap and the pocket bag roughly where we want the snap to go. Navigate to the 2D window and you will see the marks we made on the pattern pieces. Next, using the Edit Pattern tool, split the segment into 2 uniform parts. Right-click on the new point and select Add Perpendicular Internal Line and X-axis. Then, repeat this step for the pocket bag. Next, we will apply our button and buttonhole using the marks made with the 3D pen and the line we just created as a guide. We'll do this in the same way I had just showed previously. Next, we will change the type of button the same way we did before, as well as fasten the button. I then selected the buttonhole in the object browser, navigated to the property editor, and went to opacity and turned it all the way down. Because this is a snap, you won't have a visible buttonhole showing, so I decided to take it off to make it more realistic. I then pulled the snap over the flap to make sure that when I fasten it and simulate the bag, it will appear correctly. As you can see, the snap is sitting much better on the shape of our purse. I then realized I chose the wrong button for this and chose the shank button instead of the snap rivet button, so here I am changing it. I then went back into the property editor for this button type and changed the shape. In the property editor, you can also change the appearance. I changed mine to be a gold color, and under type, I selected metal. Next, we will add the snap that attaches to this piece that hangs over the opening of our bag. I will navigate to the 2D window and making sure I have the right piece selected, I'm adding landmarks so that I can make sure that the button and buttonhole are placed correctly on the bag. To place the button to make sure it looks correctly on the flap, I decided to do it in the 3D window and basically just eyeball it since there won't be much overlap between the button and buttonhole. Here I am fastening the button to the buttonhole, but it became a little difficult in the 3D window, so I decided to switch to the 2D window to make this possible. Here I am checking to make sure it's fastened correctly. And for this flap, I want the snap to be underneath it to mimic a magnetic closure on a handbag. However, you can still see the snap, it's peeking out from underneath the flap. To fix this, I navigated to the button in the object browser that I'm currently using. I made a copy of this button to not change the properties of the original button on the pocket flap, and then I changed the width, but it was still adding some unnecessary bulk there, so I decided to just reduce the opacity to 0 to just make it completely invisible. And there it is all done. Make sure to unhide the strap pattern before you decide to render. Thanks for watching.